Hello and welcome to IYF podcast. In this podcast, we'll be trying to answer the question, how is the lockdown affecting young people? I'm joined by IYF members Kyle,
Hello.
Katherine,
Hi, I'm Katherine.
Lowry,
Hi.
and also former MSYP for Aberdeenshire East constituency, Josh.
Hello, thanks for having me.
The government announced that there's going to be an extra 3 weeks added to the lockdown period. We are in our first week. How do you feel about the extension, Kyle?
Well, I thought I was pretty much guaranteed that it was going to happen because they couldn't just put us back to normal. Cause there was somewhere else, I can't remember where, that they had released it, and then the COVID just came straight back, and they had to go on to lockdown again.
Let me pose you the question, Katherine. How do you feel about the lockdown being extended?
As Kyle said, I agree it was inevitable. But in regards to how I feel about it, I've actually quite enjoyed the lockdown so far. So the fact that it's been extended is actually good news to me.
That is true. Many people are enjoying the lockdown, though they get a time off work, some time off school, but they also do need to catch up with some schoolwork. It is an interesting time for young people all around Scotland and the world. Josh, you've been working with young people in different formats for many years as a young person yourself, one being your MSYP role. What do you think could be the effects of the lockdown to young people?
Well, as you've already outlined, Shayne, there is a real educational impact here in the time away from school and potential lost ground there in getting through academic courses. But I think the big impact here in young people could be on mental health and loneliness. We may well come on to that later on. However, I'd just like to take this opportunity as well to have a bit of an unashamed plug for a new resource developed by the Children's Parliament and the Scottish Youth Parliament. It's called Mind Your Time, and the First Minister recognised it in one of our press conferences just recently, and that's a new online resource about managing screen time, given that we are likely to be spending more time on screens, whether that's phones, tablets and so on, during this lockdown period. It's important that we try and keep a healthy balance. So I think that the impact on mental health will be really quite important during this lockdown period.
That is very true. We've been hearing about a mental health pandemic that will also rise due to the lockdown being extended and there being a lockdown in the first place. People are staying at home, they're isolating for whatever reason, whether they do have symptoms or they don't have symptoms. They can't see their friends, they can't communicate in almost any way possible. The only way they can communicate is with their family members and their household members that they have with them and going out for daily exercises. And I think it's also a very key thing that we take advantage of what we have. We take advantage of whether we are going out to run or do some exercise, listen to some music while we're doing it, doing some yoga or some practices at home. Things like that do make a big impact on mental health. Lowry, what do you think about that?
I think that's true, Shayne. The lockdown will have a big impact on mental health of young people.
Many young people will be feeling quite bored in the lockdown. What have you done to keep yourself occupied, Katherine and Josh?
I've been painting. It's something that I did at school, but I've been taking a more creative liberty in it. I've also been reading a lot, as well as like hanging out with my friends through FaceTime and social distancing through Windows. So I've been quite occupied actually and watching loads of Netflix.
Josh, what have you been doing?
Well, I've been getting round to a long overdue clear out. I'm beginning to see the surface of my desk again, which is a huge bonus. But I've also taken the opportunity to learn a bit of Gaelic on Duolingo as well, and I've found that a really rewarding experience. So I would heartily recommend either of those for anybody listening who maybe is looking for something different to do.
That's fantastic. That is a very key fact. We all have different ways of coping with this. We've not seen anything like this since the Spanish flu in 1918. So there is a massive gap on what people have been able to cope with and what we've been used to. This is simply not the norms. And I think keeping yourself occupied on what you like to do, whether it's painting, tidying, as Josh said, talking to a neighbour through social distancing, of course, something that you like to do. There are many ways that you could communicate with your friends. Have you tried anything new, Kyle?
I've been doing just like reading books and that, but I did try to make a model. It was, I think, the second week of the holidays. I was making a model that I got for my birthday a few years ago, but other than that, I've just been reading and tidying.
Kyle, we will be missing a possible 6 months of work. How do you think that will affect you in school in the long run?
Well, it depends on how the teachers are going to continue to do the work, because some subjects have been giving you stuff that you would usually do in class, whereas some of them have been giving you more easy and relaxed stuff. But since we're going to have 6 months away from school, if we're having easy and relaxed work, we're going to miss out on a lot of our education.
That is a huge gap that we're going to be missing in school. It's a great point to bring up as well. There's at the end of the lockdown period, we would have missed 2 weeks of school. Of course, excluding the 2 weeks that we would have had for the Easter holidays, but that is still a huge gap that we are missing for school. Imagining the the younger people who are doing hires, people who are going on to do advanced hires, they will have to make up that time at home. And it is a big ask for young people to, say, sit at their desk for 6 hours straight and represent the time they would do at school. It is a massive ask, and of course people may not be able to go online in the same way that other people may be. If and when the lockdown is eventually over, the UK begins to start up again, what is the first thing you will do? I'll start off with you, Josh.
I think that the first thing that I'll be doing, if I get the chance, of course, and depending on how lockdown's phased out, but the very first thing I would be hoping to do would be to visit my grandparents. I normally spent my Sundays up with them, so I have missed that time spent with them. Of course, we have been able to keep in touch through FaceTime and so on, but being back up in the croft would be fantastic. Equally, on a similar theme, being able to catch up with friends from school would be fantastic. Just one last time before we go our separate ways off to college, university, employment and so on. So being able to have more of a personal conversation again with people would be absolutely fantastic.
Lowry, what would you do?
First thing I'd do, like Josh, I'd see my grandparents because I see them about 3 times a week usually. Other than that, I'd probably go out for a meal because quite boring not being able to do that.
Catherine, what would you do?
Similarly to Josh, I would be catching up with my school friends. I haven't seen them for a while, and by the way it's looking, my birthday will actually be in the time of the lockdown, so I'm hoping to have a celebration for the 18th. All my family lives in England, so it's not really a big thing that I'm not seeing them. Actually, though, because of the lockdown, we have been FaceTiming more. So
that is a good point to bring up. People are connecting in many different ways, whether that be Skype, Google Hangouts, Zoom or FaceTime. You do see yourself talking to family more. You want to check up on them in a difficult time. It is a difficult time for everyone. I'll ask the question to you, Kyle. What is the first thing you would do when the lockdown is over?
As everyone else has said, visit my family, and if it's up soon, if it's taken up soon, then I'll probably go up and see the puppies. It's my dog's half sister. She gave birth to 7 puppies just before lockdown started, and usually we'd go up and see the puppies every weekend or something, but we haven't been able to do that, and it's been quite annoying.
Yeah, people are missing people. We do see the compassion in people, and when we look back in this period, we want to say to ourselves, we did something to help, we did something to combat coronavirus in some way, whether that be helping people in our street, helping or clapping for our carers. it doesn't need to be on a mass scale, because small things make a massive difference, like staying at home. You are saving people's lives. As we prepare to round up the podcast, if you could offer one piece of advice to all young people listening, what would you say? Katherine, please kick us off.
If I could offer one piece of advice it'd be to young people listening, I think it would be focus on what you know is definite. There's a lot of questions going on around just now about when this is going to end, what's going to happen, and I think if you focus on them too much, you're going to get all wound up and in a tizzy and in a mess. So focus on the constants, what you do know, what you can do, whether that's, oh, today I made my bed, anything as little as that, anything to get you through the day.
Fantastic. Lowry, what would your advice be?
My piece of advice would probably be to make sure to stay connected with those that you can.
Perfect. Yeah, do try and stay connected with the people you love, your friends, your neighbours, because people do have mental health, as Josh put out earlier on in the podcast. We do all have mental health, and it's important that we look after that, not just our own mental health, but other people's mental health. Being kind, small acts of kindness, small acts of generosity make a massive difference, and it's important to remember that. Kyle, what would you do?
Well, I'd make sure that you stay connected. Make sure that think of the positive stuff. Don't think about the bad stuff that's happening. Think of the good things you're getting out of the lockdown, the good things you're getting out about the virtual learning, and just do stuff that you enjoy doing. It'll help a lot.
And finally, Josh, to end off the podcast, what would your piece of advice be to all the young people?
Value this time. Kyle has said before that too often we focus on the negatives of a situation. But value this time, see this as a unique opportunity to take stock, try something new, value the time to spend time with family and keep in touch with friends and family outside your own household. Hopefully this will be a unique situation, but try and see the positive of it and value this opportunity as best you can.
We do need to value the time we have. We do need to take learning experiences from this pandemic. It is a big issue, but like all big issues, we learn from it. So if you learn one thing from the podcast, be safe, talk to the people around you, look after other people, whether that be communicating with them, small acts of kindness, because small acts of kindness make a massive impact.